This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions.
Hi, my name's Mark Hayward. This is the Absolute Business Mindset podcast, and I'm a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. And here are some of my thoughts, ideas and comments. So I want to talk today about advice. Now you might think to yourself that listening to advice is useful. And I'm going to argue that yes, it can be very useful, but equally it can be disruptive or actually negative to actually listen to advice depending on where it comes from. So the 2 points of this is listening to advice and ignoring advice. So both are skills that you need to be able to assess, and they are more about what the person is saying, not what the person is saying, but who the person is. So the first thing is about listening to advice. So I would say it's incredibly important to listen to advice from mentors, from trusted people. Now that might be friends or family. For example, it might be another businessman of you that's in your family that has a proven history or a proven track record. And if you socialize with them on a family event, I would definitely say listen to what they have to say. And that is basically the crux of what I'm trying to say, is people that have a proven track record or experience, or you think they might be able to add value because of a unique perspective they have, you should take their advice, absorb it, think about it, reflect upon it. I think more than just saying, oh, you're going to do exactly what they say, you've got to take responsibility for your own life, and therefore it means that you need to be able to listen, absorb, think, reflect, and then act. So as I say, anyone that fits into this terminology, which I love using because I have a mentor, is your mentor. Now that might be someone that you pay. In my case, it's a mentor that I pay, and I respect his opinion. I respect his viewpoint, his experience, his past, and I know from working with him that he can give very good advice, a unique. Now, this is the important thing for me, and this mentor for me, is that he gives a unique perspective that I do not get from anywhere else. So I have a line manager, I have a boss. Both of them are equally happy to be able to share advice and share thoughts and work with me on that. But my mentor gives a different viewpoint from both of those people in this corporate environment. He is a businessman. He's an entrepreneur. He has a lot of different businesses and interests. And I know when I go and see him, I might not take exactly how he does things because he has a particular way of doing things. But I know if I can absorb what he says, reflect upon what he says, and then be able to put it into my words, then the advice that he's given is going to be quality, is going to be of high quality. So, as I said, a mentor gives you advice. If you're paying that person to be your mentor, you have to really think they're good because they can be expensive. But equally, it might be a boss, it might be a line manager, and if you trust them that they're going to be able to deliver good advice, then that's really, really good for you. Because these sorts of people are there to add value, and they're kind of being paid to do it. But equally, the people who are line managers, the people who are bosses that want to be able to share their experiences, they can add some really good value. So bosses, line managers, mentors, listen, as long as they're good and they've got quality and they know what they're talking about, listen to them. Now, I just wanted to divert slightly into people that give advice that you don't trust. Now, if that is the case, it might be a peer, it might be a similar grade to yours, and they just like hearing their own sound of their voice. Now, there are two people that I can think of specifically, and I'm going to be very careful not to be too specific, but there is one person that gives advice that is actually just bad advice. I don't trust his opinion. I don't trust his viewpoint. I don't think he can add value to where I'm going with my career. So every advice he gives, I disregard. Literally, I don't even take it into consideration. Now, you've got to be quite bold to be able to do it, because most people have probably less confidence than I do, and think, oh, if someone gives me advice, I should listen to it and consult on it. I've been burnt a couple of times, and therefore, in this example, I just go disregard. Whether it is good advice or bad advice, I don't trust their advice, and therefore, they're out of here. Another person that just, I think, this person likes to give advice and likes to feel that they are adding value and helping along the line. And therefore, I think these types of people pick and choose. Listen, consider. If it doesn't work for you, disregard. If it does work for you, take it with a pinch of salt. But the whole point of this point, okay, if that's the type of person and people are giving you advice and you're not sure, then assess each piece of advice and think about it. Don't make any rash decisions. Just consider, think, consult. It might be talk to your mentor about that person. It might be talk to a family member about that person. It gets into sticky wicket when you start talking to your boss or your line manager about someone that's giving you advice. It gets into a delicate area, so I would probably steer away from that. But if they're the type of people, you need to just think, what they've said, does that add value to me? And then work from there. Another person that you should disregard advice from is from competitors. Now, some people are competitors and don't really realise they are competitors. Some people are quite clearly competitors. Some people are quite clearly, even to the point in my business, give you bad advice to help their benefit. It doesn't happen so much in my area, but I could definitely think of one or two people in my business that I would think would give bad advice to somebody else. So competitors, be really, really careful with. You really need to be, you got to work out whether they are giving that advice for good reasons or bad reasons. If it's a competitor, I would be suspicious. A lot of people would say just consider it as a piece of advice, and that probably wouldn't be wrong. But equally, be a little bit suspicious, because even from a subconscious level, they might not necessarily want to do the best for you. So I would say with competitors, err on the side of disregard. And so you got to assess the person, the advice they're giving, what they're doing, and I've not used this term ever before on any of these podcasts. I've used in a political decision, but I'm gonna kind of link to that, because I don't really like the terminology political decision, although office politics does happen. But I think you do need to assess when they're good advice, assess when there's bad advice, work with it, do the stuff that helps you, and don't do the stuff that doesn't. And that's down to the advice they give you, because the experiences, the things that they've done that would get them to that point of view. Equally, it could be a person, and as I said, if it's a competitor, you might think maybe this isn't the right person to give me advice. But I think something I've learned quite recently is some people just like giving advice, whether it's good or not. or sometimes it's malicious, sometimes it's not. Sometimes people just give bad advice because they're being given bad advice, and therefore they think they have confidence in their person that's giving them bad advice, and they share bad advice. I think it's not always a single point of action for giving bad advice, but I just think what you need to consider, right, let's just be objective. Some people give you good advice, paid or non-paid. Some people give you good advice, non-paid. Some people give you bad advice, paid or non-paid. Let's just be honest. If it's a mentor and it's giving you bad advice, scrap and get someone else, or wait for the right person. So I would say it's probably important that you assess what's right for you, what's wrong for you, and then enact on that. Right, I'm going to stop it there because I think I've clarified that people that you should listen to, people you shouldn't listen to, and that's really what I wanted to talk about. If you could please go onto iTunes, if you've downloaded this from iTunes, and give me a review. I would love to hear your comments, good, bad, indifferent. It's like what you'd like me to keep, what you'd like me to start or stop would be fantastic. So please, I urge you to go onto iTunes and give me a review. If you've heard me on Stitcher or Spotify or any of the other areas, then please give me advice. Give me reviews and advice. On Twitter, you've got me on Mark Hayward 169. I release some of my podcasts on Twitter, so check out for them. It's good to hear any advice. Please, can you subscribe to my podcast on any of the different platforms? Obviously, iTunes is probably the most relevant for most, but equally Stitcher, Spotify, etc. And I would like you to do one thing, is I'd like you to tell someone about my podcast. If you've enjoyed any of the comments that I've said today, then please share it with a friend, a colleague, a family member, anyone that you think can add value with what I'm trying to say. So please reach out to those people, tell them, and that would be absolutely fabulous. So this is the Absolute Business Mindset Podcast, and I thank you for listening.